My father-in-law, Julian, always believed that the family business was his personal playground. I still remember him standing at our wedding rehearsal dinner, toasted to my husband for making a smart choice, and then immediately thanking me for finding a cheap caterer. For 3 long years, I lived on black coffee and 14-hour workdays, holding his crumbling logistics empire together while he treated me like an unpaid assistant who just happened to marry into the family. It did not take long to realize that my hard work was actively being used against me. Julian loved the optics of keeping me in the basement of the corporate ladder, claiming he wanted to avoid any accusations of favoritism. The reality was much simpler, as he just wanted cheap, highly skilled labor that he could exploit without ever having to offer a real promotion. I built their entire supply chain from scratch, but to the board, I was still just the quiet girl who managed the spreadsheets. Instead of fighting a losing battle, I silently started gathering my evidence. Every email, every signed contract, and every single loophole in our vendor agreements went straight into a secure private folder. That was when I discovered a beautiful little clause I had slipped into our primary supplier agreement the previous year, which legally designated me, by name, as their exclusive corporate liaison. If Julian ever tried to push me out, he would quickly find out that the suppliers only answered to me. The storm finally broke during a Monday morning staff meeting that featured dry bagels and a very smug new face. My husband had warned me that Julian was bringing on his golf partner's son, a kid named Carson who had just graduated and needed a resume builder. I watched as Julian personally escorted this kid around the office, eventually handing him a brand new double monitor setup right next to my cramped, outdated desk. Carson could barely navigate our shared drive, yet he was treated like the next company savior. 2 weeks later, the office was buzzing about a massive new logistics expansion project, which was actually based on a blueprint I had spent months designing in my spare time. My husband assured me over dinner that his father was planning to hand the project to me as a reward for my loyalty. For a fleeting second, I actually let myself believe that my sleepless nights were finally going to pay off. That stupid hope died the very next afternoon when I saw Julian and Carson sharing an expensive lunch across the street, laughing over my printed proposal. The official betrayal arrived in the form of a company-wide announcement. Julian stood at the head of the conference room table, beaming with pride as he unveiled the new initiative and immediately named Carson as the project lead. The room went completely silent as everyone turned to look at me, but I just sat there and offered 3 polite, slow claps. Julian did not even make eye contact with me, completely erasing my years of preparation to give his golf buddy's son an unearned victory. I did not scream or throw a fit. Instead, I walked straight into Julian's mahogany office and placed a crisp white envelope on his desk. He looked up from his phone, casually asking me to make sure I helped Carson get settled into his new role. I simply smiled and told him that my 2-week notice was inside the envelope. His face went pale as he accused me of taking business decisions too personally, completely unaware of the digital bomb I had just detonated from my phone. Within 48 hours of my departure, the entire corporate machine began to grind to a painful halt. Because of the exclusive liaison clause I had authored, our primary supplier immediately blocked Carson's access and refused to ship any new inventory. Other vendors quickly followed suit, invoking penalty fees that were only waived while I was managing the accounts. Carson tried to bypass the security blocks, but his incompetence only ended up locking the company out of their own logistics dashboard. The desperate phone calls started coming in on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. I let Julian's number ring several times while I relaxed in my new private office, enjoying a hot cup of tea without the familiar knot of anxiety in my stomach. When I finally answered, his voice was dripping with forced warmth, asking if I would be willing to return as a temporary consultant. I calmly informed him that my new consulting firm was accepting clients, but my daily rate had just tripled. The final reckoning took place during an emergency board meeting that my old colleagues later described to me in glorious detail. The board members had discovered that because Julian signed my exit paperwork without reading it, I legally retained the intellectual property rights to the software powering their new project. The meeting ended in complete chaos, with Carson quietly packing his laptop and slipping out the back door while the board ordered Julian to meet my demands. True victory does not always come with a loud confrontation. Sometimes, it is just the quiet satisfaction of knowing your worth. I ended up signing a massive direct contract with their largest client, who openly refused to do business with Julian's company unless I was personally running the operation. As I watched my old father-in-law walk out of an industry gala empty-handed, I realized I had finally stopped needing his approval. My name was no longer a footnote, and the business I built was finally mine.